that allow to remove some of those things that are not a strength of yours. I mean, let's be real. Okay, this might not be something that you're great at, but what are hacks that we can put in place that allow it not to hurt you bad? And then what are the things that you're great at, and how do we max that out? Because this is something that's right in your sweet spot. You know, let's hit home runs there all day.
Welcome back to the Better Than Rich show. You're in for another treat today because we have Matt King. And Matt King's been come up on several episodes on the Better Than Rich show because he is my first mentor. And it was such a fun conversation for me because Andrew Biggs kind of picked up where Matt left off. So I hired Andrew as my coach as Matt was transitioning out of Vector and Cutco. And so around that time frame was when Andrew started coaching me, and it's like the baton pass. And I could tell you that Matt is one of the godfathers of my life. He has taught me everything when it comes to business, how to just grow as a man, helped me navigate through so many different challenges that I've experienced in my adolescence, my early 20s, and through my 20s. He was through all the different fires I was walking through. And Matt King is an incredible human. But what's really awesome about this conversation specifically, he talks about how to scale a business, how to mentor your staff, and using core values index and personality assessments. Talks about how to create an international team of virtual assistants and incorporate them into the model. Just as far as some statistics, I mean, he has 60 U.S. employees now. He started his company, by the way, 6 years ago, Blue Chip Maintenance. 60 U.S. employees, 30 to 40 international team members, over 100 contractors. Within 6 years, went from a $0 business to they did 16 million last year, and they're projected 22 to 25 million dollars this year. He's going to go into his number one tip and tool that he feels and he believes that has created such large growth in such a short period of time in this episode. So get ready for another great episode of Better Than Rich Show with Matt King. So welcome back to the Better Than Rich show. I am super pumped because I'm here with my two mentors. I got my original OG mentor, Matt King, who started training me and coaching me and teaching me everything I needed to know during my late teens and into my 20s. And then Andrew Biggs pretty much picked up where Matt left off and into my late 20s and early 30s and mid 30s. And I've been looking forward to this conversation for quite some time. We finally have Matt King on the show. So welcome, brother. Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me. Been looking forward to it. A lot of exciting things you guys have been doing. Glad to be a part of it.
Well, we appreciate you, man. And it's your name has come up. We're probably 60 some episodes in right now, and your name has come up several times. So we're looking forward to this. And Matt, I mean, obviously, I know you so well. You've been. If I had a fourth groomsman in my wedding, it would have been you. You've been like the big brother, mentor for my life. And, your story is really great because you're raised up in, Carolinas and as a college athlete, and, you start selling Cutco, and you rise up the rankings. You broke, all the records for the company and direct sales, and you've mentored and coached, I don't know, probably 15,000 or more young people during your time in direct sales. And then you said, hey, I'm out. Like I'm actually going to move on and into another career path. I'd love to just spend a little bit of time on that first chapter, like building your empire in direct sales, being responsible for nearly $100 million in direct sales and influencing tens of thousands of individuals. And then I'd like to see how you took everything you learned in the direct sales and how did you bring that into your new endeavor where your business right now is functioning at like $1 million a month. Like it's insane of like what you've built beyond direct sales. So if you just want to kind of like lay it down, man, I'd love to start there.
Okay. Well, obviously, I started with Cutco out of college and finished up my freshman year. And unfortunately, my father got into a pretty tough car accident. And that summer, I ended up moving in with my mom. and I needed a summer job. And, prior to that, pretty much everything I'd done had been linked to restaurant business or, manual labor-esque type jobs. And so I was given that first opportunity to, apply my mind and my work ethic and my ability to speak to, earn income. Right. And so that gave me that first opportunity and a glimpse of, being able to really make that, decision that there's a different way to approach life besides using my hands and my body to produce income. And so that, obviously was the starting point. And then, immediately I started to, start to understand leadership outside of the field, right? Prior to that, I think, in most examples of leadership that I'd experienced was watching a coach, right? And there were a lot of positive impacts that coaches had for me. And I also had some coaches along the way that, as I look back, I wish I would have gotten other things out of them, right? So I think I got a lot of lessons there. And then being able to be groomed from a professional standpoint from some of the amazing leaders that, I was able to work with in direct sales with Cutco and Vector, kind of brought it all together. And so for me, I was able to kind of, take both of those lessons of what a great coach is like, right? And what are the things that embodied a great coach in terms of somebody building a great team and pouring into people, right? And then also somebody that, took it from the professional standpoint to, open people's minds up to bigger thinking and bigger possibilities and lead them to, things that they didn't see were possible prior. And so for me, I was always a big fan of the Bulls back in the day. I know, you were as well. But I thought about Phil Jackson. I thought about, assembling one of those teams and really all the dynamics that goes into bringing a team together, having these dynamic leaders on the team, but also the role players on the team and getting the most out of the team. And, I viewed my job as, to be that type of leader of people where, there were a lot of talents that lay beneath the surface. And sometimes it's our job to help unlock people to what their true potential might be and position them to win, and throughout life, presently I'm coaching, two, 5 and 6 year old, 5-6 year old baseball team, a 7-8 year old baseball team. And, it's the same philosophy, right? I mean, I'm putting together practice plans. Some of the dads are out there and they're like, man, we've been playing for years and I've never seen practice plans this detailed and strategy behind the game with T-ball kids. And I'm like, yep, we do things a little differently because I want to teach the kids an experience and help them create a passion for whatever it is that they're doing, whether they're selling knives, whether they're living their life, whether they're playing baseball. I view, my mission in life is to take things that have been imparted upon me and try to give them back to people and to help them live and have the fullest experiences that they can have, and obviously it's up to the people to make the most of those experiences. But if I can create the environment that creates that fertile soil for them to grow, that makes me happy. And that is really my mission.
Well, I love that, Matt. And I'm glad you're coaching baseball. That's one of my hobbies that I do with my son too. And it's super fun. I don't know if we've gotten as detailed, so you might have to send me some of your stuff that I can copy there. I'm curious. This sounds great in practice or in theory, right? Okay, my job is to unlock people's potential. I think the big question that's coming up for me that I would love your insight on is like, well, what's the how to some of this stuff? Like, what does it really look like to truly unlock someone's potential? If someone's listening and saying, yeah, I'd love to unlock my team's potential. Like, what could you give them that's really practical that they could do, today or tomorrow that could really make an impact, or this week or this month that could really make an impact on their team?
Great question. And so, I think there's a lot of ways to approach it. I think a lot of leaders, by the way, spend and burn a lot of energy trying to take people's weaknesses and make them strengths. And at the end of the day, that isn't necessarily the way, in my opinion, that you're going to get the best results, right? So part of it is realizing, right, getting to know your people. And so obviously I think from a personality assessment or core value index, which is what I've always used for the last 12, 13 years, I kind of get an understanding, right? Everybody's different. Everybody's unique. Everybody's environment has shaped them to a degree. But it kind of gives me some understandings of like, hey, naturally, here's where this person is going to be great. Here's some areas that they might have challenges. If I can maximize the things that they do well and help minimize the things that might hold them back, that obviously is what I mean by that. And that's going to free them up to maximize their best. At the same time, right, I think, there's a way of thinking. Right. There's a mentality that doesn't matter what personality style somebody has, but, helping people understand standards for themselves, and ingraining a culture of, what is acceptable, how do excuses go here? How hard do we play? Right. When we come to work, how do we bring it? Right. What's a day? What's winning the day mean in this organization, on this team, at this practice that we're in, and establishing those kind of cultural norms, right, that create high performance, and then taking the individual players on the team and working with them to say, hey, this is something that you have challenge with. How do we minimize that, right? How do we allow that? How do we have life hacks that allow to remove some of those things that are not a strength of yours? I mean, let's be real. Okay, this might not be something that you're great at, but what are hacks that we can put in place that allow it not to hurt you bad? And then what are the things that you're great at, and how do we max that out? Because this is something that's right in your sweet spot. Let's hit home runs there all day, right? And so I feel like, being able to identify those things in people, whether you use a personality assessment or not, or you just spend time getting to know people, is a big key. And then also paying close attention to the way they talk, right? Words are a window to the mind, as we all know, right? And a lot of people will help you understand the way they think and where their shortcomings are in their mindsets and their attitudes by the vernacular that they use on a regular basis. And so that's another way to help people think the right way, right? I mean, in today's world, a lot of people go around, with the glass half empty mentality, or not thinking, that they're capable of great things. And sometimes they just need somebody to believe in them and somebody to pour that belief into them, or help them have the vision of what could be possible if they overcame some of those challenges or state of mind.
Man, you brought back some great reflections. It's so funny because I remember, working in your division, I was like the time management guy. Like I would give the talk on time management and being like having the attention to detail before we even like really learned CVI. And on the opposite end of that, it was like I had Mike's 1K Alliance in the PDI coaching book. It was like, hey Mike, you're not really good with people, so you're gonna take you're gonna take these people, get them to $1,000, and then we're gonna pass it to more experienced coaches. Like you wouldn't let me run interviews, you wouldn't let me coach good top people because that wasn't a strength. It was like, hey Mike, we need you to give a time management talk. And it's really funny to hear, just like reflecting back over 15 plus years ago, for you to have the intuition to see that in me as like a student and a younger up and coming manager. I know you mentioned
at the same time, you're a community guy. You want to do what's right for people, right? And I knew that about you too, right? And I knew that you were also persistent as heck, so you weren't going to give up. Right? You're not the guy that ever gave up. And so even though they were the 1K reps and they weren't the high performers, if there was somebody that I knew that would give them their best every day to try to lift them, it was Mike Abramowitz. And so those were the other key parts of that story that I don't want to have left off of you as a 19, 20-year-old brand new manager, right? What you were bringing to the table. But those were some strengths that I knew you weren't going to give up on them. You would call them every day. You would try to lead them to success when other people might not have, right? And so that was your contribution, and it was huge back in the day. And obviously now you're like the people guru, but the young Mike is just figuring things out. We were able to look at your strengths and use that to the best of the team's use.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you, man. Like the stuff that you've drawn out of me over the course of the last, still even to this day when we have our lunch meetings and whatnot, it's really fascinating to see just how attuned you are with me as a human and as a person. It's funny. I think back to my first interaction with you. You're wrestling Jake Bailey on the floor, like pushing his head into the carpet. I'm wearing a shirt and tie coming in for my first meeting. And it's like, oh, this is my new mentor. My first time I'm ever going to meet Matt King, and that was my first impression. And then you sit me down in your office. And it's like, all right, let's talk about your schedule. And I'm like, what? I don't even have a schedule. And just like the ability for you to draw these geniuses and these gifts out of me, during such an important time in my life is something that it's hard to put words and express the gratitude, for you for. One of the things that I do want to also say is that you mentioned CVI and Core Values Index. I'd really like to kind of go in that direction right now, because this is something that has helped me tremendously. And I know it's something that you're really passionate about, and you've built this really awesome business with Blue Chip using this tool. I'd love for you to just kind of riff and talk about, the builder, banker, innovator, merchant. We haven't had somebody really talk about personality assessments or core values assessments, and bringing that into our audience could be really helpful. So however you would like to go in that direction, of course, since we talked about banker and community and organization stuff, we could start with the banker because it's already been labeled and talked about. And selfishly, I always like to hear about my style, but we could go in any direction you feel fit. But I really like this topic a lot.
Yeah, well, no, that's great, and I definitely, our company has gone from a 4-person company 6 years ago next month to 60 employees and another 100 plus contractors. We finished last year just under 16 million, and we feel very strongly we'll be 22 to 25 this year. And I would say if there was one thing that made the biggest impact, even beyond, what I would feel I would bring to the table from a leadership standpoint with my partner and myself, it is this CVI. It is, and by the way, I'm in a networking group with Vistage. That is a networking group of other business owners. There's 18 of us that run, small to mid-sized companies. And, I've brought that to them, and many of them are now wholeheartedly on board with it, and they've seen major growth in just about every case where an owner or executive has taken some form of this, right? Some of them have different ones that they like to use, but the reality is that we want to have people come to work every day, number one, and be happy, right? And so I think a lot of times we hire people randomly, and we're putting them in a position that they're not necessarily wired to be optimized for, right? Even if the culture is right, we put them in a role that they don't enjoy. Retention happens, right? Or doesn't happen, right? Because we get the wrong people, and they end up disappearing or jumping ship within a short period of time. Now you're rehiring, spending money, retraining, wasting time, and you're losing a lot, right? Even if somebody really loves the job, right? They love the company and they're trying to do their best, they're going to be 30, 40% less effective in the role than getting somebody that's actually wired that kind of likes the job, right? If they're wired to do the job. So, we talked about banker, specifically 75, 80%, maybe even 90% of my company has banker as one of their top 2 core values, right? And the reason for that is that my company specifically is a very process-driven company, right? Details matter. There's a lot of information, okay? We do not need a lot of creativity. There are companies that need tons of creativity. There's engineering companies out there that need that. By the way, our guys in the field that are problem solving and fixing stuff, hey, we need people that do that. But in the office, the back end support, we need people that are going to be organized, detailed, make minimal mistakes, And by the way, be okay with spreadsheets, be okay with lots of information, and, be able to look at a screen all day and leave work and be like, I did what I needed to do. It worked out great, and I feel great contributing to the team and the community that we have. And that is what we have, right? And so, I use that a lot because there's so many things that we do that are very detail-oriented when it comes to estimates, when it comes to sending invoices, right? When it comes to all the financials that we have to put in, all the purchasing orders that we do. You mess up on 5% of that could, take away 5% of your profit. When you're talking about $16 million, that adds up to be a lot of money that you just threw away because you weren't optimized with the right people. But having the right people puts you on the right track to be able to do it. So in terms of the different styles, right? Our bankers, right? As I mentioned, very organized, can handle a lot of information, very community oriented. They are the human encyclopedias, okay, for knowledge and information. And they love to be able to share that knowledge and information with others. So they're great at training and coaching and teaching. They're great teachers, right, and trainers of new people on the team. And like I said, they make minimal mistakes, right, because they have such capacity, okay, to hold on to so much and retain so much information and not leave stuff out. So those are our bankers, right? Our merchants, right? And a lot of times with us, it might be they're a merchant banker, banker merchant. They're also, the people that are the relationship forgers, right? They're the people that everybody loves to be around the most. They're the sweet personalities. They're the ones that smile the most and make you smile the most. They're the ones when we're interacting with clients or tenants that we're calling, right? They can put people at ease. They can de-escalate situations well. They're also great at team building, right? So when we want to, from our recruiting departments, right? A lot of times the merchants are great for that role because they're magnetic, right? I would say that the merchants are the most magnetic of all. Obviously, by the way, every style has weaknesses, okay? The merchants sometimes, if they don't have that banker attached to them, they might, cut a corner here, forget something, or, not finish a task. But when we attach the banker to it, it's like a great combination of great sweetness and completing the task, right? Then when we get to, and we have a lot of banker merchants on our team. They're also just incredibly nice people and also community oriented to the whole, to the team players, right? The best team players on the team, your banker merchants, merchant bankers. Then you have your banker or your builders, right? Which is my personality style, my lead personality style, and my business partner. So we're both, high builders, and, they are very directive, very, hey, let's go, let's get it done. Sometimes they shoot from the hip, right? It's ready, fire, aim at times, especially when we're younger and immature and don't understand that about ourselves. As obviously any style, as we have life experiences, we mature in our style and understand ourselves through self-awareness and make adjustments. But they are people that just want to get stuff done and make stuff happen, right? A lot of times they end up in leadership positions, not necessarily because they're a better leader, but usually because they want to be first in line, right? And they're wanting to jump up and they're looking to build stuff, right? Now, we have a lot of them on our team that are banker builders, right? And they are the most high-level taskmasters of anybody that there is out there, right? Every one of them on my team, they can take a list of stuff, a list of actionable items, do it the fastest and most complete with the least amount of mistakes of any style that there is. They are the taskmasters among taskmasters. They are somewhat rare. I don't run into them a lot. A lot of them are very unique, by the way. I had everybody in my CEO group take it. And about half of the members of my CEO group were either builder, banker builders, right? Now, their weakness, right, is the relationship side, right? My sister happens to be a builder banker, and she's good with clients, but sometimes she doesn't play as nice in the sandbox with the coworkers because she has very high standards of not making mistakes. And when people make them, she doesn't really have as much compassion. And so, sometimes, one of the keys to this is that we need to surround ourselves with people that complement us as well. Right. So if somebody's in a leadership position and they have that style of, a builder, banker, builder, taskmaster, well, they need somebody that's going to make people feel good around them, or they're not going to retain many people around them because they're kind of tough sometimes. And then our last style would be, our innovators, right? And these are our creative types. We do not have, out of the 60 employees, I would say we have 2 that have that as a first or second style on our team. The reason for that is that in our business, we're not trying to be creative. We're not trying to figure out. We do maintenance, right? So it's pretty cut and dry. In terms of our office. In the field, I would say 60% of our team has innovator as one of their top 2. In the office side, because we need problem solvers out there in the field fixing stuff and solving stuff and using these amazing minds. The innovators, by the way, they're usually the geniuses of anything. Okay. Anytime you look at somebody that is just the most wise, they are the best at whatever they do. Whether it's playing a sport, playing an instrument, they're just the best doctor, they're the smartest kid in the class. Almost every time, it's an innovator. Okay, they are just the massive minds out there that create so many things in society, and they are much needed overall. But if you are process driven, here's step 1 through 10, and this needs to be followed every time. They're going to hate their life. They're going to hate the job, and they're never going to stick around. And so that's why we don't have as many of them on our in-office side. But if I was like, hey, we need to engineer a building, right, and create blueprints for that, I would have a ton of engineers, creating that, or a ton of innovators creating that. And a lot of people that have that engineering background and any type of engineering have a high level of innovator in them as well. So I believe my son is a high innovator. He's super intelligent, and I would just say usually the smartest person in the room is an innovator. So use that, right? And so the ones that we do have, we lean on them for that amazing mind that they have. They're all very unique and can bring some great qualities to the team. So that kind of rounds it out. If there's any other follow-up questions, I can elaborate on some more.
That was a masterclass in personality assessment, and obviously CVI, Core Values Index, is the tool. But like you said, there's Myers-Briggs. You could use, there's tons out there that have been floating around. The
DISC.
A couple of them are slipping my mind. DISC is one. That's
DISC,
really
Understand Myself. Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Tons out there. So Matt, that was awesome. Really, and you brought me back to so many conversations and so many trainings that we've gone through, and you brought that into our division and whatnot. So that was super helpful. Andrew, let me kick it to you on any follow-ups on that.
Yeah, I'm curious, Matt. It's kind of cool to listen to everything, and you have an understanding here that I think it's almost like I have some cursory understanding, but you've taken it to almost like a science, right? And you're like, every single person, I kind of know their profile. If I ran the math right, it's like, in theory, there's 32 different combinations, right, of like the rank order you could have in the 1 and the 2 slots. So it's like, okay, and if you extend that to the 3rd and the 4th, spots, that's, that gets even more combinations. But it's like, what, how did you go about even thinking about this? And how could somebody, really start to almost put this into practice in a real sense? I guess every single person when they're joining your team takes a test, right? And then, based on that's in the interview, probably in the interview process, right? And
no, even before that.
Okay. Yeah. Fill me in. How's it work?
So we actually start even before we even go through the resume, right? When we get the application on Indeed, the first thing we do, because I don't want to spend a lot of time looking at resumes. Resumes, by the way, in my opinion, are sometimes one of the most bogus things that you can spend time on. in most cases, getting the right person that is wired to do the job, is more important than what they have on their resume or the experience they have, right? I've had so many people in the past, before this was a religion, that you'd bring in that had experience, but they weren't wired to do it, and they underperformed. You get somebody that had zero experience, but they're wired to do it, and in a short period of time, they're an overachiever. And so, the step one is we would send out, hey, here's an assessment we need you to take. We like to put people in positions where they're going to come to work every day and be very happy in their job. And so, we are looking for a specific style. Please take the assessment, either send us an email or a text message of the results of the picture that you receive after taking the 5 or 10 minute assessment. So everybody that has the wrong results, we just file that away in the not what we're looking for folder. And then the ones that do, we then look at the resume and see what matches up, or what do we like or what do we not like. And then we'll have the screening call. But the prerequisite is the right style. And, I'll take this a step further. I have a good friend that Mike knows as well, named John Bird, and he was, leading a medical sales company. And, I had a little bet with him on this, and I said, hey man, you want to impact your sales force, I'll bet you that you give me a screenshot of your top 7 not your top, just your 7 salespeople. And I will tell you in order who is your best performer and who is your last place performer. So I'll tell you your top 3 and your bottom 3 without ever meeting them, never shaking their hand, knowing nothing about them except a picture that you send me. And literally to the T, I said, hey, here's your number 1 guy, here's your number 2 guy, here's your number 3 guy, and here's your bottom 3. And it was dead on, right? Because the picture doesn't lie, right? Obviously, I needed to know what type of sales he was doing. Is it just phone? Is it face-to-face? Like, all that has a part to play in this. But I was able to nail it. He then took what we discovered and saw a 50% increase in his business the next year by applying his hiring practices to hiring the right people, right? Like, overnight, got the right people on board, and all of a sudden they're optimized to perform at a high level, and the results followed. And the same thing's true here. We get the right people in the right positions, and then the right things happen. So
for the sales, I gotta ask. The listeners probably like, so what do we look for in our top salespeople? Because you got the banker who's really organized, who's going to do the activities. You got the builder who's really competitive, who's going to want to win. You got the merchant who's really sweet talker and good with people, and then you got this innovator who's a genius that can like manage that flexible schedule. Like, what's the combination, brother? Like, what give us what you're looking at.
Well, it all depends. Once again, if they're more face-to-face, are they having to make lots of phone calls, right? Anybody that's going to make lots of phone calls needs to be able to do repetitive tasks, right? The 2 styles that can do repetitive tasks the most are your builders or your bankers, right? So a builder banker with some nice personality behind them, right, where people will enjoy talking to them naturally, which is the merchant. Those are the ones that can do the repetitive task over and over all the time. Builder, banker, banker, builder, with the being able to connect with people, which the merchants do the best, right? So if you're making lots of phone calls, that's a critical thing. If I'm going face-to-face and I only need to make a couple calls a day, hey, your merchant innovators are some of the best at connecting with people face-to-face. The innovators aren't great at repetitive tasks. They are not going to sit there and make the most phone calls. They're not going to they're going to make about a third as many calls as your banker or builders would make. But when they get in front of people, they use those wits that they have, and they're very, very good at closing the deal, especially face-to-face. But once again, the key element is the merchant, and it depends on whether they are doing repetitive task sales or it's face-to-face sales. But your merchants are typically, they got to have that in most cases, because those are the people that are just naturally magnetic. They're naturally the best at communicate or connecting with people. And it doesn't mean that all the other people aren't great. Doesn't mean that they can't sell, right? Hey, I've seen every single style succeed in the sales arena. But if I'm building a sales team, I want to take the most effective, efficient, route to get there that's going to cause me the least amount of challenge and training, right? I want it to come naturally if possible.
It's great. And I mean, no matter what, this is just a masterclass in how to think about putting the right people in the right seats in your team, right? Because, there are some tasks that I know I'm terrible at. I'm kind of high innovator merchant type, and repetitive tasks, no thank you, absolutely not. But I bring, different skills to the table, hopefully. What's nice about, Mike and I's partnership is we kind of mirror each other. We're kind of opposites in a lot of these things. We have both high innovator, but, he's much more attention to detail, and that makes a great partnership, right? And then as we're hiring, what did you say, Matt?
That you're both geniuses. Right. So,
thanks for well, that's an exaggeration. I've probably, but yeah, I think what I like though is just thinking about all the roles on your team though, because you need to know if someone's not going to be a great salesperson, maybe they'd be great, an admin person, or maybe they'd be great, bookkeeper, maybe they'd be great here or there or elsewhere. So you just got to know what are you really looking for inside a role, and what does that look like? One of the things I'm curious about, you've grown this amazing business. You're looking to do 22 to 25 million here this year. What are just some of the general strategic, things that you've learned over the last, many years you've been in business? What are some of the other things that you can offer to the audience to say, man, that sounds great to me. How do I get there? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I know one thing that Mike, talked about that I think is important, that you all are big supporters of, is just the whole idea of the virtual assistants. And we actually have changed that vernacular in the company. We call them our international team members, right? Just because I think once we classify them as virtual assistants, it kind of brands them. And so I would think about changing that vernacular up. Obviously, to kind of explain it to a client's one thing, but within a team, you're right, there are international teammates, international team members. And so, I found that vibe really settles well. But, one of the things we've done has been able to take our margins from, in that 5-6% range up to that 10 to 12% range. And, that's really focusing on our SG&A costs, which is essentially the overhead or fixed expense of salaries. And so, we started approximately 4 years ago with our first international team member. And, we did it for bookkeeping purposes. And we got somebody with a 4-year degree in accounting for $7 an hour. Right. It was great, right? Our books are being kept by an accountant, right? And this is our bookkeeping being done by an accountant for $7 an hour. And then slowly but surely, we're like, well, hey, I'm curious, what other positions. And by the way, we have close to 30 to 40 now on our team. So I didn't count that in our employee pool, but, we have 60, in the US, and then another 30 to 40 international teammates. And so, we then expanded it to all of our admin done. So every work order that comes in is being entered by somebody that's either in India or the Philippines or Kenya. And then we were like, oh, you know what? Invoicing can be done that way. And then, we started thinking about, so a lot of our project managers need to do lots of estimates, right? I mean, we're doing, 5 to 100 to 1,000 jobs a week, and it's a lot of estimates we have to write. Even something as simple as typing in the address and client name and all that on the estimate, which is wasted time for our project managers, our international team members serve that up. So they're kind of presetting every single estimate that's written and handing it over. So we're saving time from our higher income earning team members to somebody that's making $5 to $7 an hour, right? And so it allows us to focus on that. And then this year, for the first time ever, we took this step and said, we were always getting backed up on the number of phone calls, right? We make over 1,000 calls a day out of our office, right? Like we make so many calls that when we call you, it says spam likely, and we're a legit business. It's literally trying to set up appointments. That's how many calls we make. And we're like, that to staff that was crazy. And the worry was like, hey, what type of level of pronunciation can we have from our international team members? But we were able to find people that had unbelievable ability to speak clearly English. And now we've got 11 of those that, help us scale that side of the business. Now we are approaching the business of, hey, what are anything that we can do, right, that we can add that piece on, and instead of paying 40, 50, 60K a year, you can pay 10K a year. And by the way, some people are like, oh, it's not American. Well, hey, these are people too, right? And we're paying these people $5 to $7 an hour, right? This is life changing to them, right? Like I literally give somebody a 25 or 50 cent raise and have watched people break down and cry in the review process, right? I mean, and by the way, every one of them takes a CVI before they ever get an interview, right? Just like every other style, every other position, they have to take the CVI first. But you give them a 50 cent raise and they're like, some of them get promoted to a supervisory position. They get $1.50 raise and they're like, I can live in a house now, right? I mean, the type of impact that these people have, it's awesome, right? To know that their quality of life, just the standard of living is totally different. And we win because you don't have the payroll tax. It's 100% tax deductible, right? And you don't have the the healthcare insurance and all that type of stuff. It doesn't translate overseas the same. So there's a lot of wins there, for everybody, right? And now, but we have so many, it's all word of mouth now. We say, hey, we need to hire, and we'll get 30 or 40, resumes because they're like, man, all my other friends are making $3 an hour. I'm making 5 to 7. And everybody that they know wants to work for the company that they work with because we actually pay them more than what they're typically earning. So, so that's been, that's been a pretty phenomenal piece of the puzzle for us and being able to scale that. And by the way, there's some higher end talent that you might pay even more than that. We have people that can go up to 9 or 10, but it does vary depending on the type of task. So that's been a big part. The other thing is creating replicatable processes for as many parts of the business as possible, right? If somebody disappeared tomorrow on your team, could you replace them with somebody and hand them something and say, this is exactly how you do what you need to do, right? And we took our entire company and broke down literally everything that we do, from sending an email to a client, to entering an order, to writing an estimate, and created an entire process roadmap to every single department that we have, exactly how those work. And then, twice a year we go back through and update because things are evolving constantly as our business evolves. So, having that set up in place where it sets us up for success when we need to train somebody new, or if somebody decided to leave one day, we're not put in a position of weakness and the business can continue to thrive and run. So, I think that's big. The third thing I would say is investing in our people. We spend, I think we have close to 12 or 13 people right now that are in mid-level to upper-level leadership positions that we then pay for personal coaching, anywhere between $500 to $700 a month per person, that we invest in our team above and beyond their salaries, because we believe that, as we help people grow, they're going to be a better version of them when people are green and growing, in and outside of work, that, they're going to be fired up and bringing their A game when they come to work. And, we want to keep people green and growing. We have a culture here, right? We have 4 pillars. Our third pillar is Can I? That's constant and never ending improvement. And we apply that to the business, right? But we also challenge our team to apply that to their day in and day out lives. Like, a lot of big companies don't really care about the employees or talk much about the employees outside of work. Last Monday, I ran our January closeout meeting, and went through how to create a budget for yourself for 2023 personally for each employee on the team, and talked about, hey, we want you to save. We want you to invest in the 401k, right? We want you to be able to retire here one day, and we want you to get out of debt. And we gave some practical ideas on how to make that step. Last fall, we had a 6-week health challenge where there were 6 different categories that people could pick to get healthier, right? Some of them, it was trips to the gym each week, steps per day, amount of water drank per day, body mass index shrinking, and different people on the team could pick whatever categories they wanted to compete in. And everybody put $20 in the pot. The company matched it. And then we had winners at the end of the 6-week period. Anytime somebody smokes, we buy them a book that literally helps people stop smoking. And we've had 5 or 6 people that have literally given up nicotine on our team through that. But we genuinely care about our people. And I think when you focus on growing your people, people will focus on growing your business. And that's, it does have to be genuine, and you have to take steps to help people feel that. But that is who we are, and that's how we pour into our team, and it's reciprocated in our results.
Yeah. Well, Matt, I mean, you just gave the goods, man. So thank you so much. That was so good. Thinking about these international teammates, making sure you have this international team, creating these SOPs, right? If you or your partner or any single employee, were to disappear, could you run the business without them? Could we pick things up without missing a beat? And if not, then you need to do the work that you need to do to get to that place. And then thinking about, how you're actually showing up for your employees. I mean, I just want to land the plane on this, because those 3 keys, right there is worth the price of admission, in my opinion, for today's episode. So listener, go back and listen to that if you need to. Take some notes, because him talking about investing in his employees, paying for coaching, right? Have you considered paying for coaching for your team? Which employees need coaching? Which employees could you retain and keep for the long haul if you were to really invest in them? There's the old saying, like, what if we invest in our people when they leave? And then I think the CFO said that to the CEO. The CEO says, well, what if we don't invest in them and they stay? Right? And it's like, well, which is the worst of the two? So that was so good, man. I just really appreciate it and want to make sure that, the listener is really able to land the plane on that. Mike, I know you had a question that you wanted to be curious about. What's coming up for you?
Yeah, I love the international teammates, because I know you and I have spoken about, the virtual assistants, and it's been a life changer for me having, Hannah and our virtual assistant team, and doing a lot of just admin and CRM management and some of those repetitive tasks that are really time consuming for myself and other members of our staff. So just to have, I love the framework of the international team member. That's partially, I saw how beneficial it was for me. I was like, I asked Hannah, I said, Hannah, do you have other friends who might, same thing what you said, who might enjoy a position just like you have? So now we have we're approaching 24, dozen and a half, somewhere in that, 12 to 24 staff members, international team members, who we now outsource and help our clients use these virtual assistants to help them in their businesses and help them win back their time. And obviously, listener, if you're interested, you could go to va.betterthanrich.com, and we pretty much take all the headache out of trying to find them. But I am curious from you, Matt, what is your internal process for finding your 30 to 40 international team members, or at least what was the starting point to find those first few? And then, of course, the word of mouth spreads real quick. But if you just had to take us real quick, just any best practices there on finding those first few, in case someone wasn't using our service. Of course, they probably should, but if they weren't, what would they do?
Yeah. So there was. By the way, I've seen your pricing, and I think that it's better than Rich, and it's definitely competitive, and better than what we paid initially. So that's how we started. Is we found a company like yours. They charge more than your company does, and to the point, by the way, where I was like, man, I almost thought about starting a company that just did that, right? When I found out the margin on what they were doing at first, but. And I know your rates, and I think, man, you guys are really doing a good job there with being super competitive and the pricing being at the sweet spot where I think it's a good deal for everybody. but initially what we did is we found a company that was over there. They posted jobs. Then I said, hey, they need to take the CVI. I need green, right? I need green, right? And the color cue for the assessment. Then, we found another company that did it. Then what we found out is there was a way to buy out the contract, right? So there was a way that, we could pay at first it was like $2,000 or $2,500 to buy it. Like we paid them every month. And then after like a year, I was like, man, I'd just like to have them on and not have to deal with all this all the time. And we just, boom, paid out $2,000, paid out $2,500, whatever. And now we had that person on the team. Then we found out, about some other platforms that are out there, okay, where you can actually post ads, but it's kind of the same thing where you might say, I'm willing to pay X number of dollars, I'm willing to pay $7, but then what they actually advertise to the workers is a different number, and there's a margin that's baked in the cake. And so, but you don't really have the support of somebody that is going out there to find them for you. So we did that a few times on some of those platforms out there.
Is that like an Upwork or like a Fiverr type of platform?
Upwork was it,
okay,
to be honest with you. And then, hey, I'll give you a quick hack here. Hopefully Upwork doesn't watch this podcast, but, at the end of the day, when I saw the breakdown in the margin is that we were offering a $5 an hour position and Upwork would then pay them $250. I said, hey, let's run a Zoom meeting. And, in my Zoom meeting, I said, hey, Johnny, we can run this through Upwork, no problem, if you'd like to. Or, I can just pay you $5 directly. What would you like to do for you and your family? I'm going to pay the $5 to Upwork and you're going to get half of that. Or I could just put it in your pocket and, your family could get the total amount. And sure enough, everybody has decided to go with option B. And now we only did that a few times. And since then, it's all been word of mouth. So, but, that was kind of maybe 3 to 5 times, I think, a year or two ago. That was, a way that we worked the system a little bit, to be honest with you.
Hey, that's great. I mean, it's a great hack, and some people need to figure out what works for them, and that's why we love to have open communication like this, because frankly, I paid $2,500 and had to negotiate my pricing right off the bat when I got my first VA, and I wish I had the Better Than Rich service, which is why we created that for our clients, and it's really something that our clients appreciate. But I love the hacks for those that aren't clients and they're just listeners of the show and want to build businesses and win back some of their time. So I love that. I know to wrap up this episode, and every episode we ask 3 questions to end the episode. I also want to say, before I ask these questions, I just want to acknowledge you, Matt, because not only are you running a 60-person U.S. employee company, 30 to 40 international team member, 100 contractors, doing 16 million a year within the first 6 years and growing it to 22 to 25 million. But you're also coaching 2 baseball teams. You make time to go out hunting. Obviously, I know Jamie's been over the house. Yeah, 3 awesome kids. You got your wife. You have, your mom is moved down here now from Carolina. You got your sisters in the area. You've recruited them to move down to the area now in Tampa. So you have your family as a family man. You have your hobbies and interests. You have your kids, you have your passions, while simultaneously also running a really kick-ass business that you could eventually sell and walk away from, and then be in your early mid-40s and have even more time to do whatever the hell you wanted, which is really a testament to your journey. I know we didn't get so much into like your upbringing. I know it was a really quick story, but like going from blue collar, like this is just how it's going to be, working with my hands, to now employing so many people that are making differences in their lives and their families' lives. And you're doing the same with your family. It's really a remarkable story. And I'm just so honored to have you as a friend and a brother and a mentor. And I'm just so grateful that you showed up for our listeners today. So I just wanted to capture that before we go into our 3 questions. Biggs, if you want to take the first question, that would be awesome.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And yeah, I think one of the first times we were hanging out, you were showing me, the picture of the buck that you and your son had shot, and we were hanging out at the Bucks game. So it's really cool to watch kind of how you also really care about your family. And obviously that's a big part of what we do here is how do we actually help people, of course, become financially free, but what's the point? So they can actually enjoy their lives and make an impact in the next generation. So thanks for being such a light bearer for that cause. Our first question is what do you think the world needs most right now, in your opinion?
So I think that the world needs more love, man. I know that might sound a little cliche, but there's just so much divisiveness out there, and I think at the end of the day, man, we're all just people trying to live great lives, and we should have more compassion for one another, and extend more love to one another on a regular basis. And, I try to live in that state as much as possible and be that person. Sometimes it gets tough on the highway, but, most of the time I think I do a good job. So, yeah, we need more love, man.
Love it. Second question, Matt, what are 1 to 3 books that you think people should read right now?
I would say The Go-Giver is one. One of my original favorites, right, that Mike probably remembers me pushing is Think and Grow Rich. So I'm a big fan of that. And then also As a Man Thinketh.
Awesome, man. Last question. What does it mean to you to be better than rich?
To me, I think you pretty much summed it up, and Mike summed it up in the way that he wrapped things. Money at the end of the day, right, is really just a number. But, the quality of life that we bring to our family and, our friends, is really the most important thing. So I think being able to live in a state of gratitude and building your life to a place where you can stay in that place of gratitude, is an important thing. And so, obviously there's been times where that has been hard, but, I would say currently for me, and Mike didn't elaborate on it as much, but, being able to go hard with the business and evolve the business and grow people and develop people also has set me up to, I get to take my kids to school every day, and my day ends when I pick them up from school at 2:30. And, in fact, I'll be leaving here in about 25 minutes to pick them up. And so I'm in the line with a lot of the moms, right? But, I'm glad to be that and be home and spend time with them. And that's my work week on top of the stuff that we do. And so for me, being better than rich is realizing that I have 18 summers with each of my kids and 18 years before they fly the nest. And I want to take advantage of that and have as many great experiences with them as possible, and try to live with as little regret as possible as I look back upon my life. So to me, that is being better than rich.
It's beautiful, man. And gosh, thank you so much for just delivering today and giving our audience the goods, and got to share you with them, because obviously I get you. I've had you for 20 years, man. And thank you so much. And Andrew, obviously, just I said in the beginning, the two of you, the impact that you've had on my life, the both of you together over the course of 20 years has just been remarkable. So I'm just extremely forever grateful for these two humans that the Better Than Rich listeners got a chance to experience today. So thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Matt. And listener, of course, thank you. Assuming this episode has helped you, it's your turn. Help others. Share it with a friend. Leave a rating and review. Subscribe on YouTube. And as always, remember, leave today better than you found it. Till next time, we'll see you then. Cheers.